It's not another Buffalo podcast. With John.
All you people out there who are like, these idiots don't know anything. First of all, you're right. And second of all,
Pat.
Like, why? It's like, you ever watch Arrested Development where George Bluth Sr.'s crying? And he's like, why does Oscar have hair and I have money? Why can't I have money and have hair and Oscar have nothing?
And Brando.
If Eli Manning can beat an undefeated New England Patriots team, then I can do anything that I want in this world.
On Buffalo Rumblings.
all right, welcome back to Not Another Buffalo Podcast. I'm John. I'm here with my buddies, Pat and Brando. This is Buffalo Rumblings Podcast. You can find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Small City Real Estate. If you're buying, selling, or need help with property management in Western New York, you got to call Zach Korzelius at 585-409-1088. Again, that's 585-409-1088, and Zach will get you all set up. So, Brando, you said next Monday is the beginning of tampering or legal tampering.
Yeah.
But these teams have been tampering, right?
Right. The players, Von Miller's on the phone all the time.
He's got to be. Von Miller is probably the most tampering person in the United States from the period of February to March 1st, I guess.
Not named Donald Trump, yes.
The U.S. government says otherwise, but,
Yeah, that's a much different form of tampering.
I'm curious to see, they're at the Combine today, so we'll have the Combine come out later on this week. And now you have McDermott on the competition committee with Sean McVay. You hear about these big get-togethers with these GMs and coaches. In baseball, you have the owners' meetings and you get some deals that are made there. And then in the NFL, you have the Combine and you have all these other things where these big heads all get together. They have to be chatting about stuff, right? They're talking about, are you going to lose this guy? You're going to try to save this guy. Like somebody from Cincinnati was like, we're franchising T. Higgins, guys. Settle down. No, he's not going to hit the market, right? And then like somebody has to know about this. So I would love to be a fly on the wall in those rooms.
Lots of strategical leaks this time of year, right? Somebody's agent says this, somebody leaks this, and it's inside information, yada yada. Yeah, but it's all intentional. It all has a purpose.
Well, I was listening to them talk about this the other day about Chicago with Justin Fields, and first Justin Fields is going to Pittsburgh. Now Justin Fields is going to Atlanta. Maybe Justin Fields ends up in New England, and it's like, who is leaking this? What benefits who? The agent is trying to get credibility within the team, right? So if you're a beat reporter for the Steelers and the Steelers are in negotiations for Justin Fields and they want Chicago to know Russell Wilson is an option. So they're going to play that agent and say, hey, we're close to Russell Wilson here. So I want you to leak that to maybe put some pressure on Chicago to give us a better deal for Justin Fields. So it's just a big game, right? It's just who's blowing smoke, who's blowing BS, and
who's just blowing.
Yeah, who's just blowing. Yeah.
Still
funny.
The New York Jets. Suck it. So you were talking about some free agents that are going to be on the market this offseason.
So yeah, I got a little thing here for you guys.
By the way, I forgot to do this at the top of the episode. Just to give you guys a rundown, I got to do this a little bit more often. We have a good show. We got Quotes with Pat on the end, so stick around for that. We got a John's Top 10 this week. I slacked last week. I apologize. So we're going to talk about some free agent prospects.
Also, maybe I missed this, but maybe we haven't had the three of us together. But we have to crown a Game Picks champion.
Let's do that.
You?
Let's do that right now. Brandon, you won.
Woo!
Sorry,
is this your second?
Speech.
Is this two in a row? Three in a row?
It's 2 out of 3, man. John got me last year, so we're not quite a dynasty, but I'd like to thank my mom and my dad for raising me to like sports.
Oh, and they're already playing the wrap-up music in the background.
Well, maybe give us our final number at some point here, but yeah, it's okay.
Oh, here, I'll open the spreadsheet here. Sheets.google.com. What a website.
I don't know why I was thinking about it. I'm looking at my papers here and I got old notes written down and I have the game picks written here.
See, I think I haven't updated it since the Super Bowl. All right. Did Baltimore clear -4? No.
They did not.
Red. San Francisco -7.5.
34-31. Lions covered.
Kansas City obviously covered for the Super Bowl. Wow. I went 0-3 over the last 3 picks. And Brando went a resounding 3-0. So That brings Brando to 67 and 54 final record. Write it down, scrapbook it. Oh man, with those long shot picks I did in the last little bit to try to catch up with Brando, I knocked myself under 500. Well, it's all right. If you ain't first, you're last.
Go big or go home.
That brings my total to 59 and 62 losing record. And Pat went 2-1 over the last 3 picks, bringing his record and bringing home the second place trophy in this year's game picks. Not last, second place, ladies and gentlemen. That brings his total to 63 and 58.
It's not bad.
Hopefully all those numbers add up to the same number, but I don't have
check our math
calculator on right here. Yeah. So Pat only finished 4 games back of Brando over the course of, whatever, some odd 100-game season. So we got to do something to mix up the game picks next year. I feel like we need like a wild card pick or like a pick your upset of the week or something. We'll figure it out. We'll do something goofy.
Yeah. The biggest spread, the smallest spread, a pick'em game, Bills game, and maybe one other one.
Yeah. Also, like
we do a fan poll. We could do a poll on Twitter.
What if we need penalties for going 0-6 over the course of a week or something like that too, like some kind of crazy thing. But Pat's queue for that is already full at this point. I think Pat's got like 6 TikToks in the pipeline he still needs to put out. So
no, my girlfriend is literate with the TikToks, so I will be talking it up soon here.
That's right. It's all right. The business world moves slowly, Pat. Yes. It's all right. This is some USPS level.
That's funny. Sorry to sidebar us there. I was just curious.
No, that's all right. We can send you a certificate.
I'm telling you, we got to get a trophy. I'm gonna look. I got a trophy guy.
We really should. You got a trophy guy?
I got a trophy guy. Yeah.
You got a trophy guy, Jerry?
Yeah. I got a guy. I'll reach out to him and I'll see what I can get. Maybe like a $30 trophy with like 10 spots on it, or we can update it year to year.
Like the Stanley Cup, and you keep it in the background each year. Yeah. I like that.
But this year, moving into the off season, I have a game for you guys. This or that. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they updated the salary cap, the NFL, and we are only, I think, 38 million over the cap now in the red. But Connor McGovern just restructured his contract as of like 8:30 p.m., maybe 5 minutes ago. So with that $13 million bump, we're only, we have about negative $36 million in cap space now instead of negative like $46 million in cap space. So the grass is still red, but it could get greener. A couple of restructures, a couple moves from Brandon Beane. So I have this list here, and we talked about wide receivers in our last show. We talked about drafts versus free agency, and we're like, John's like, I don't want to have some low level wide receiver that you plug in here to try to be your wide receiver too. And then we brought up Madden because I'm doing that and Madden in my Madden league, but thought that was a valid point. So with that salary cap bump, you might have enough money to re-sign Gabe. I don't think you will, because I think you get somebody like the Lions or the Chiefs that have a ton to throw some money at him. But we're going to play this or that. I have some lists of wide receivers here. Now, the first thing that you have to choose in this or that is, would you like this receiver or Gabe Davis? Then we can compare the free agent wide receivers amongst each other, but you're really only going to get one of them probably. I don't think you're going to get more than one of these guys. So for starters, and Pat broke this surprise early on today, was Mr. Torch the Bills in London, Calvin Ridley, who is a free agent. And I have been a fan of Calvin Ridley. I like what he brings to the table, especially as a gambler. That man has no limits.
I was going to say, not a financial advisor.
Yes, he is not a financial advisor. But Calvin Ridley, would you take Calvin Ridley on this Buffalo Bills roster if that means that you lose Gabe Davis and probably Leonard Floyd?
Yeah.
Really?
I mean, Leonard Floyd.
Like the Leonard Floyd is what makes me hesitate. Like if we're doing straight up this or that, Gabe Davis or Calvin Ridley, like, sorry, Gabe, give me Calvin Ridley in that case. But Leonard Floyd, I think I'd rather keep Leonard Floyd on this team. They're going to need edge rushers next year.
So Sport Track pegs Ridley's projected value at about 16 to 17 million per year. We'll see if he gets that. I don't know if he'd get that from Buffalo. Well, I don't think we could afford that. But if he gets, if you're talking 12 to 13 million, that's more in Gabe Davis's ballpark. So Calvin Ridley is probably going to make more than Gabe, deservingly. And you would have to make some moves to get him. But I think he would be the perfect 1B. He reminds me a lot of John Brown across from Gabe Davis.
I agree.
I think or across from Stephon Diggs. So He's my favorite choice. I don't know how we do that, and I think you do sacrifice Leonard Floyd, and maybe you take a D lineman with your first round pick if you sign somebody like Calvin Ridley. But
right.
Okay. Next one.
What about wide receivers without a gambling budget?
I like this one.
Contract.
This guy, former wide receiver 1 in the NFL, has fallen off a little bit. Still a player, though. His name would be the Michael Thomas from New Orleans, who is a free agent, and he's over 30. I want to say he's 30, 33.
I was going to say, I feel like he's been on the Saints. Like Mark Ingram was on the Saints when this man was on the Saints. Like
Reggie Bush might have been on the Saints when that guy was on the Saints.
I feel like he's more of like a over the middle type guy, right? He's not necessarily like a torch you deep. He's more like a quick slant, like over the middle, take a big hit for the first down.
In his prime, he was everywhere guy, right? But he reminds me of the Emmanuel Sanders type, right? We got Emmanuel Sanders in here on a cheap $5 million deal coming off of the end of his career trying to win a Super Bowl. He might not be the only option though. If you sign Michael Thomas, you have to.
He's foaming at the mouth to have some good quarterback play too. I mean, you think about you go from Drew Brees to famous Jameis to Derek Carr. I mean,
So last year he's had 3 seasons in a row with injuries. 39 receptions, 448 yards, 1 touchdown. You know, I think that could be a flyer, a very cheap flyer, but 10 games, 7 starts, 64 targets, 448 yards. So
a bit of a spicy take here. Michael Thomas, he's had the injury stuff, but I think having him on this team next season would more likely resemble the season that Kelvin Benjamin had with the Bills than it would the Emmanuel Sanders season, unfortunately.
That's an interesting take. I might not disagree with you, but I had good feelings about his name when I wrote his name down. And now I've kind of changed my mind on him a little bit.
It's all about the associated emotions. You see a name like Michael Thomas, he was really good at one point, but he's had trouble with injury. So, if you want to set yourself up to have a deficit at the position at some point in the season and be doing practice call-ups for Andy Isabella, I think that's a sure way to do it, unfortunately.
Okay. Fair enough. All right,
so
this next guy,
I would take Gabe Davis over Michael Thomas next season, just for this or that purposes.
That's what I was looking for here. Next one might be a little bit more intriguing. I think this guy fits almost to a T what you are looking for. And his name would be the Josh Reynolds from the Detroit Lions. Last year
he's snake bitten though, dude.
He did drop that fourth. And the Lions may be Super Bowl champions if he's not
he doesn't
on the
drop
roster.
2 big passes.
So, I'm saying if he can't catch a Jared Goff softball, you think this guy's got hands to catch the Josh Allen fastball?
Well, that's not the question. The question is him or Gabe Davis. All right, Gabe Davis had dropped balls too, but.
Well, what is it like? As Told by Ginger. You guys ever watch that show on Nickelodeon where she's like, someone once told me the grass is much greener on the other side, and I paid a visit, and it's possible I missed it. Seemed a little different, but exactly the same. Macy Gray, she's a great singer, but a little different, exactly the same.
Yeah, I might even still lean towards Gabe Davis because I think he's a better fit for our offense at this point, like where it is in time.
I mean, how old is Josh Reynolds also?
He's our age. He's born in 95. He's 28. He's going to be 29. So here's a couple more informations about him. Some more informations on Josh Reynolds.
Love those information.
His Spot Track expected contract is half of Gabe Davis. It's $7 million a year, which is exciting. He had 40 catches, 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, a 15.2 average yards per catch. And that's the number that reminds me a lot of Gabe Davis. So chunk plays, touchdowns, drops the ball in the playoffs, half the price of Gabe Davis.
I mean, and honestly though, I feel like, he's kind of got like a, what's his name? Ernest Bainer, like fumbles in the AFC Championship and cost the Browns their only chance to the Super Bowl. And then he wins 3 Super Bowls. So maybe he's just getting it out of him right now. I don't know. Cost effective, I suppose. How old is Gabe Davis? Gabe Davis is like born in 98 though. He's younger than us, isn't he?
Yeah. Gabe Davis is younger. I don't know his age right now. He's 24, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's born in 2000. He's in junior high.
Who's older, Dalton Kincaid or Gabe Davis?
Dalton Kincaid is like I want to say he's like less than 6 months younger than Gabe Davis, isn't he?
Yeah, he's 24. Also.
Wasn't because Dalton Kincaid like bounced around. He did a little junior college stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, he was a 4-year player. Didn't play a lot of football in high school, right? Senior year.
And yeah, I'm sure if you pulled up, Dalton Kincaid is probably older than Tremaine Edmonds or something like that. Something random like that. Tremaine Edmonds is still 16.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't be opposed to him. Maybe it's my Lions bias. I think it's better than Michael Thomas. So on my paper, I wrote Michael Thomas or Josh Reynolds because that was going to be a question.
This is dat or dat?
Yeah, this, that, or that. Yeah.
Dis, dat, or dat, or dis or dis?
This,
These
or
were,
that.
These were both previous disses, right? Is Gabe Davis the dat or the dis?
Like the South Park voting episode where they have to choose between giant douche or turd sandwich. Like,
basically.
Oh man.
So I'm not opposed to Josh Reynolds, but if you
I would
don't
take
like
him over Michael Thomas. I think I think if you were going best value, that award goes to Josh Reynolds.
Well, and also if Josh Reynolds makes those 2 catches, he's probably worth a hell of a lot more than he is right now.
So you're buying low.
Good point.
And here's the thing. You have to look at these value guys. You're not going to get Gabe Davis at a discount. You're not going to get a guy at 12, 13, $14 million a year. I'm looking at the $7 million bin, and I'm looking at the $5 million bin, and I'm looking at the $10 million bin. And the $10 million bin, we're going to give up somebody if we get that.
Which is why, like, my first thought when you said, so here's a guy who could be perfect for us, I was like, oh, so he's going to a first or second round wide receiver? Like,
all of these options suck compared to a first wide receiver.
Who's
I think
the dude
you do
who
this.
says, so here's a guy. Isn't there's like a meme of a guy who says that?
It's Chris Collinsworth. Yeah. Duh, sorry. It took me a second.
Here's a guy that dropped 2 balls on 4th down. It cost the Lions the Super Bowl, but
yeah.
No,
Chris Collinsworth, the used car salesman, kicking the tires on all these old wide receivers. So here's a guy.
These receivers are on top of a wide receiver in the first round, except for maybe Calvin Ridley. But this is your veteran that you add in with your rookie, even if it's a second rounder.
Yeah.
So, all right. The next one I have for you here, I have 4 more for you. So his name is Mr. DJ Chark, also former Lion, also former Panther. Now, I don't like him as much as I like Reynolds, but he fits the same kind of mold, averages 15 yards per catch, 35 catches, 525 yards, 5 touchdowns, almost the same stat line, 50 yards less, coming in maybe $5 to $6 million a year, cheaper than Reynolds.
It's just the last name though. You're just like, yo, you're such a Chark, or like, yo, I just took the worst Chark this morning. Or like,
he's 27, so he's younger than both of those guys. 6'3", 200 pounds. He wears 17 in Carolina, so that could be a problem, but I don't know.
Yeah,
he's a lot cheaper than, again, I just don't want to pay Gabe Davis $14 million. This is the bin we're looking in. So again, compare him to the other. None of these are going to be exciting, right?
We're getting better value because the value chart goes up exponentially. It's a logarithmic thing. It's not a linear thing, in most value cases. But I'm still like, give me 2 wide receivers in the first 2 rounds. Like what?
I'm with it. I agree, man. I'm not opposed to you.
Your chances of getting out of there with 0 quality wide receivers in the first year is like pretty low. It's got to be like less than 25%. Anyway, that's what we talked about last episode.
I just keep thinking that you're going to need somebody with your rookie. You have Khalil Shakir, but you're going to need one more. So you got to sign somebody.
Do you think that Khalil Shakir and Stephon Diggs is enough seniority in that room at this point?
No.
Because Khalil Shakir's got 2 years under his belt, right?
You need an outside guy.
Our outside guy's not available in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Look at last year, man. We had to move up 2 spots just to get Kincaid after they all went. So you could be sitting at 28 and think you're going to get a guy, and then the wide receiver train leaves the station.
Yeah,
and
we could luck into it. We could luck into a Puka Nacua or something, though. You never know.
I'm all for. We're going to draft a guy. We have to add to it though. You can't be stuck with no depth with an injury, or if Steph Diggs, slows down and Khalil Shakir gets shot. You need to have options here. So, okay, next one. Curtis Samuel. Fast guy.
He's on the Commanders.
Yeah, Commanders
I actually
player.
I kind of like Curtis Samuel. What's the sport track value? Because I think he could be a little bit if he's like your wide receiver 4 or 5 though.
So he also has connections to the Panthers as he was drafted there in 2017, but I cannot find a expected contract for him. He's coming off of $11 million a year contract. It's got to be less than that, right?
Yeah, I don't think he played up to $11 million value. I mean, also Sam Howell throwing you the ball probably is going to make your value go down. But
so I'm looking at Spot Track, and I remind you that the market value for Gabe Davis is $14 million a year. Okay, they have Curtis Samuel's market value about 10 still.
Yeah.
The wide receivers are just so expensive these days. It's just that's why you got to hit them in the draft, right?
Also, by the way, Tank Dell was round 3, pick 69 for the Texans. And it's easy to cherry pick stuff like that because then you're like, oh, look, Puka Nacua, round 5, pick 177. Well, the Bills also took a 5th round wide receiver, and it was Justin Shorter, and he was on the practice squad for the entire year. So
who also could be a flashy.
Maybe it could be something.
Yeah.
I don't know. He could be. But also Josh Downs was another round 3 pick that has shown some value this year. He had a decent year and had some kind of role, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that this is the perfect time to get that round 1 wide receiver underneath Stephon Diggs' wing. Like, let him be the mentor for a year for a superstar wide receiver, or at least someone you have hopes of being a superstar wide receiver.
Yeah. You need somebody that's going to be the number 1. Right? None of these guys are going to be the number 1. But this next name on the free agent wire does intrigue me a little bit. And he is a former hero in Buffalo. And his name would be Tyler Boyd. Even though he does operate from the slot, he's very versatile. You know,
I like this pick. How much is he, though?
So Tyler Boyd is not cheap, but he is not going to be able to fit in, I think, in Cincinnati. He's coming in at $8 million per year. And when T. Higgins was injured, Tyler Boyd went off a few games. And if he signs somewhere between 8 and 10, he's a good guy to have in your locker room, right? He's one of those guys that could make people better around him. You slot him in for the injury. He has done exactly what we need before. He stepped up for a number 1 wide receiver that was hurt and gave you number 1 numbers for a couple of weeks. And he's sure-handed with the ball, which is something that we need to say about our wide receiver room. And we're not confidently saying that with the group that we have now. So I like Tyler Boyd probably the best out of all the nonsense that I've been spewing to you guys. But again,
probably the best combination of value and like actual skill level.
Yeah,
I think that's a good pick. He's someone I would compare a lot more closer to the Emmanuel Sanders kind of thing. Okay. But Emmanuel Sanders was probably cheaper than Tyler Boyd by a little bit too.
The only reason I don't say that is because Boyd's primarily a slot guy and Sanders was primarily the outside guy. And we don't need a slot guy, especially with Kincaid, Knox, and Shakir on the roster. But give me all the weapons that you can have, right? It's one of those things. Give me the weapons. And I got one more for you. And I'm just kind of saying it for comic relief here because we talked about it a lot.
Oh no. Is it Kadarius Toney?
No, I didn't. I would never write his name down. Okay. No. It's Odell Beckham Jr. though.
I mean, I thought you were going to say Zay Jones or something, but
no, he's locked up, man. He's locked up. So
in a contract.
Yeah. It's not in jail.
Also, big drop in that win and in Jaguars game. So
right.
I'm not really a fan of that, but if you put a gun to my head, I'm taking Tyler Boyd, probably Curtis Samuel, Reynolds, or Ridley, but we'll see what Brandon Beane has to say.
I would take Odell. I don't think he would accept any sort of veteran league minimum or anything, but
no, he's probably going to want 10. He made 15 last year? Bring back Andy Dalton's hero. Andy Dalton backs up Josh Allen. Tyler Boyd signs as a free agent. Boom. Done. Free agency.
For old time's sake.
Yeah.
All right. So something else that came up this week. It's been a hot topic of conversation around the internets, so to speak, talking about possible court storming bans, what to do about it. How do you guys feel about it? I mean, anyone likes watching a good court storm. Right.
I mean, what's the difference between a field storm and a court storm, though? Because I always think of, remember Mr. Carpino's room where he has the Fandemonium poster and they're tearing down the goalpost. Is that safer? Yeah. Is a field storm safer than a court storm?
I think it is.
Probably.
I think it is. A little bit more area. Like, I think it's just space.
Have either of you guys ever been part of one? I mean, at Belmont, you guys probably had some big upsets every once in a while.
Yeah, never a court storm. Everyone was... no one was really rowdy at Belmont University.
They acted like they've been there before. They acted like they've been there before. Yeah, I have two takes on this.
We were getting ready for our round 1 exit out of March Madness every year. So that's just what we were prepping for.
So Mike Shope was just talking about this on WGR today. And he was talking about in 1988, the Bills beat the Jets to clinch the division, and they stormed the field and brought the goalposts down. And
that's the pandemonium poster, the Carpino one, just to call back to what Pat was saying. Same thing.
So he, one of the parents of one of my students has a piece of the goalpost from that game, but Mike has a piece of the field goal netting behind the upright, and he said he was in like a tug of war match. He was wearing these work gloves, and it just kept ripping. And he was like, "I just got so much of it." And he's like, "Then I put it in my coat and went away." But he's like, "I was in high school at the time," and he's telling the story on the air, and it got me thinking. And I'm like, "Can you say this as a employee of WGR who has press passes?" With the Bills?
Statutes of limitations.
I was going to say, what's the statute of limitation on stealing goal netting?
I don't know. It just got me thinking, because it says in my contract with the Bills, like, you are not allowed to do that, and you have to prevent it if possible. So my professional opinion on this is, don't storm the field in Buffalo.
If you're employed by
if I'm
the team.
working there. Yeah. So, but my fan side of this is, if I'm in Detroit, I'm storming the Ford Field, right? Or like if I'm in, who's a good upset? Like, Syracuse beats Duke or something for a national title or something, I'm not opposed to it. It is crazy. I feel like I would be the one to get crunched too, right? These players I'm a skinny guy, right? I'm like, I'm gonna get smacked. I'm not a get off my lawn old man kind of person, but I think there's got to be some sort of balance here, right? Just do it into something that means something. I mean, regular season, no. A meaningful game. Bills break the drought. I would have stormed the field and there's nobody playing. We would have all probably stormed that field in Buffalo that night of New Year's Eve when the Bills broke the drought and there's no game going on.
Yes. Well, I'm going to be at the Syracuse game tomorrow, and I would like to see some sort of storm.
All right. As long as it's not premeditated, then you're all.
Have you ever seen the ice stormed? I feel like that would be counterproductive, but.
No, what are you talking about?
Like storm the ice in a hockey game?
It doesn't happen in hockey games.
You can't do that.
Lack of footing.
Dying. Yeah. I saw Rob Ray beat up a fan in a hockey game once.
Really?
Yeah, it's like super famous. The fan like jumped the bench or something like that, and Rob Ray took care of it. And that's one of those things that you don't hold back on, and you set the precedent. Like you don't mess with this. This is what's gonna happen.
Right. I wonder what the the legal rules of assault of revolving that are.
You'll have to look up the clip to see it, but I think something like that was in play. It was like you jumped into assault a player.
Well, isn't it like, have you guys ever watched that Malice in the Palace documentary?
Yes.
Yeah.
Go Pistons. But, don't throw.
Well, you guys both unknowingly have tipped off some things on my top 10 that we hadn't talked about before the episode. So based on this whole court storming controversy, I decided to, put together a little list of the top 10 ways to deter court storming. Just doing everything we can to help out to just deter it, maybe not prevent it completely.
Honorable mention, put Brandon on the security staff.
Yeah.
Next. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, some things that might work. Top 10 ways to deter court storming. Number 10, put Cam Newton in charge of courtside security. I don't know if you guys saw that clip from this past week. Pat, you unknowingly spoiled this, but number 9, make all sports ice sports. You're not going to get any court storming because of that. Did you guys see the clip of there's some football league that does football on ice?
Yes.
I saw some highlight.
Yes.
I had no idea this existed.
No,
they're on like regular boots.
Sneakers.
And it's just a bunch of guys like waddling around on the ice. I don't know how that doesn't get old very quick. But anyway, top 10 ways to deter court storming. Number 8, copy the Detroit Pistons offense. If you don't win games, you don't have to worry about anybody storming the court. Number 7, impose an interest rate raise on all student loans for anyone who storms. I could do it.
They can't go any higher.
Right. Number 6, only allow people wearing the Trump sneakers on the court.
It's funny. The nice gold high tops.
Yep. Oh man, I'll put a picture in the
$3.99
reel for this.
$3.99 $3.99 for
Wait, like $400?
Yeah.
Oh my god. What are we doing? Number 5, just lose. Number 4, court stormers must complete 50 hours of community service or attend 3 Sabres games.
Yep.
Number 3, let Elon Musk buy your team and run the marketing department. Number 2, court stormers are required to get a New York Jets tattoo.
I like that.
And the number 1 way to deter court storming, a post-game Nickelback concert.
You have to sit
that'll
front row.
That'll keep them off. Anyway, as far as real reasons, like a real deterrence, I have no idea what that looks like.
They can't prosecute everybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's the beauty in court storming.
Well, didn't there used to be like this woman in the MLB back in the day that would like run on the field and kiss players or whatever? There's like a whole history of court storming and stuff that's quite interesting.
So
and like it used to in the 70s, it used to happen all the time. Like I think Hank Aaron broke the record or whatever, and then everyone like broke the home run record, and then everyone stormed the field or whatever. So
right. Do you think that the bar is getting lower for a court storm? Is that the problem?
Higher,
No.
way higher.
You think the bar is getting higher?
Way higher. As a kid, I used to watch
way.
court storms happen all the time, and I feel like in today's world with enhanced security and like, you know, people working for the state that the college is operated by, you know.
All right. I just didn't know
compensated.
I didn't know if like, you know, an unranked team beats a ranked team. They usually
In
see
a
a court,
regular season game in January.
right. You get a court storm these days, right? Have you always gotten a court storm for that?
I don't know. When's the last? I mean, I don't watch Sports Center or anything really. But like, I can't tell you the last time I saw a court storm.
Yesterday, there's been like 4 in the last month, man. There's so many.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They happen all the time. And like, what was the context of the last few?
That you just get it. You just gave it. I think the difference between like what you're saying though, Pat, back then, you know, these records that were broken then, you know, they stood for a while, and you know, the sport is still, you know, we're 30, 40 years more into the history of the game, and maybe these records that were being broken then that like they're just crushed now, like Hank Aaron's.
Right. Like I'm saying, like Hank Aaron beating the entire like the home run record. That's an achievement. You know, I don't know.
But when Barry Bonds did it, they didn't storm the court. They chased after his ball pretty intensely. But
So storming the field, okay. Storming the court, not okay.
I don't know.
now we're getting dicey. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
I've always like wanted to. I mean, I feel like everyone has. The friend of the show, Jacob Otto, did when he was at Penn State. I remember they did storm
Pat,
the field.
didn't you and a couple other people storm the court after one of our basketball games, but there was only like 7 people that did it? Or were you always just talking about it?
Probably talking
you're
about
just
it. We had
talking
the
about
bird calls. We had the bird calls. Remember,
That's
Casey
right.
Arnold brought the duck calls, and we.
Good times. All right. Actually, hang on. We got to build in a break to this episode. So stick with us. We'll be right back after the break with some quotes with Pat.
It's time for the Weekly Sabres Update.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are hanging a new banner in HSBC Arena. What is it now? KeyBank Center. We're hanging a banner. I don't know if you guys heard, but the Sabres have won 3 games in a row for the first time this year.
This has been your Weekly Sabres Update.
We're still 11 points out of a playoff spot. And John, that banner is going to be hung from a new roof and a new scoreboard. We're getting a new jumbotron and a new roof, and not going to get cup holders in the 300 section.
Yes, we get to watch opponents' highlights and higher picture quality.
Right.
Well, in the last jumbotron fell like a year into its
That's
life,
what I'm thinking.
so,
That's the image that is in my head right now as far as jumbotrons go.
Yeah,
So hopefully they get that fixed up. Anyway, quotes with Pat. There's things that people said.
It's time for Quotes with Pat. They're things that people said.
All right.
That was weak Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, that's the
McConaughey on his
thing.
deathbed. All right.
I would make a Dallas Buyers Club joke, but I'm not going to. So this quote comes from the defensive coordinator of the University of Washington. I would say I'm different from those guys. I grew up with my dad. Being a son, you're always kind of in the shadow. When he left unnamed Midwest city, I was like 8. And so ever since then, I tried not to be him. I want to be me. I don't want to be my dad.
Okay, can you read it again and give us the context?
So this is the defensive coordinator of the University of Washington talking about their dad. I would say I'm different from those guys. I grew up with my dad. Being a son, you're always kind of in the shadows. When he left Cleveland, context clue, I was like 8. And so ever since then, I tried not to be him. I want to be me. I don't want to be my dad.
Spell check. Belichick's kid.
Steve?
He just took
Steven Ratboy Belichick, yes.
He just took a
Okay.
job, right? He's the DC out there now. Yeah.
I mean, 1 year in and you went to the college football playoffs. Like, I mean, you can't be doing too bad of a job.
I think, didn't he just take the job?
He just took
taking
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
he just took it.
Yeah. Well, he's definitely developed his own interesting personality or whatever.
Where do you get your schemes from then? Like, how do you learn the schematics if you're watching this guy for your entire life? Right.
Well, wasn't Bill Belichick's
watching,
dad a coach as well? I believe his dad was the head coach at the Naval Academy. So, I mean,
Are
I
you
guess
watching
it's
Matt
like,
Patricia? And you're watching name other DCs that played in New England.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, because I guess he is a defense. Romeo Crennel, eat donuts. Yeah, with Patricia, I guess probably. We got one more here. We got the Jordan rules. And what I'm calling from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules. So you remember when Jordan was going through it with the Pistons, all those guys in the 80s, before he became Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, the Pistons used to whoop his ass. Anytime he could come to the hole, elbows, feeling him, love tops, we touched him. We're in the head mentality, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm touching you. So I showed those guys. It's like Jordan getting his ass whooped.
It's not Isaiah Thomas talking, is it?
So I know who this is, but I'm going to let Brando guess because I saw this quote.
Are we
I thought
talking?
it was pretty funny.
Are we talking a basketball player or a football player?
Well, he was talking about how Patrick Mahomes being treated like how
Jordan was being treated.
Yeah, this is somebody who wants to treat Patrick Mahomes like the Pistons treated Jordan.
So we're looking Joey Bosa.
No,
Is he
played a position similar to Joey Bosa. No longer a player.
Michael Strahan.
Same team.
Dexter Lawrence.
Former player of the same team. Now
I don't
into
know, man.
coaching. Someone who played with
Mike
Michael
Vrabel?
Strahan. Someone
Mike
who played
Vrabel?
with Michael Strahan and won a Super Bowl with Michael Strahan and now is a
Eli?
head coach. And now is a head coach in the NFL.
Someone who just became a full-time head
the
coach.
Raiders guy. What's his name? Antonio Pierce.
Antonio Pierce, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for walking me through that.
The bad boys.
Yeah.
80s Pistons.
Go Pistons.
We need to
But
apply
the-
the
I'm-
Patrick Mahomes rule.
Yeah, that would be good. A little bit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we can borrow. What's that Miami Dolphins player who's always
Christian Wilkins.
Oh,
Yeah, Christian Wilkins. Maybe
he
we
is a
can.
free
Maybe we.
agent.
He is a free agent. Maybe we can just bring him in for those games. How much would he take for just those games?
A lot.
Couple of pat moves at the bottom of the pile.
Gator roll.
Pat was like gator rolling people in practice. It's like have you guys seen the clip of the guy who's like, twist his
Yeah.
the old twist?
I mean, I've had it both ways. I mean, I've had it where I've tackled a guy and he whatever. I guess he wasn't wearing a cup and like the full like went through my face mask, like dangling like a millimeter from my nose. Yeah.
Brutal.
What were you gonna say though, John? Before I cut you off about the Patrick Mahomes stuff, I forget.
Was it Chris Jones? Somebody's out at the combine while they were running their 40.
Yep. I think it was Chris Jones. It
Was
went
it
right
Chris
through.
Jones?
He wore shorts instead of pants, and he just
Draft
kept going.
stock increases exponentially.
Okay, I was confused. I was confused because like the guy I was golfing with today brought that up, and I Googled it, and this looks like it's 8 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, it was
Chris
Chris
Jones
Jones.
is a
It was Chris
veteran.
Jones back in the day.
I mean, it's
I want to
basically
say it was like, it wasn't that long ago. It was 2016?
so it's a reverse Taron Johnson, basically.
Right. Chris Jones accidentally exposes himself at the combine.
Yeah, 2016. Oops.
Ran his 40-yard dash and had an embarrassing moment. That's one of the few times that having slow motion cameras is not a good thing.
That's so funny. Oh, man. Oops.
How many guys out there do you think are wearing cups though? I feel like I never wore a cup ever.
Nobody.
No.
Like even in
Nobody.
Little League, they'd always be like, "Oh my god, they're gonna cup check you." Never cup checked ever.
I mean, if
wear one in
you're a
hockey,
catcher, you wear a
True,
cup. But
true.
like,
Yeah.
other than that, I mean, maybe baseball. I never did for football
Hockey.
or anything
You wear
like
one in
that.
hockey. You don't mess around with that.
Yeah, that's probably
But
true.
football, I never wore one.
But
Anyways.
all right, cool. Well, that was fun. Chris Jones, keep it in your pants. Hopefully all the athletes have learned from that and at least have decided to wear compression shorts or something for this combine.
They saw the film.
Right. You got to learn from the film, guys. You got to learn from the film.
The
That's
eye in the
lesson
sky
number
doesn't
one.
lie.
Right. All right. Well, you guys know where to find us on all platforms at Not Buff Podcast. It's Instagram, TikTok, the ghost of Twitter, and what else is that? YouTube. YouTube's the other one. I was going to remember there's 4. Also Threads, but that doesn't really count because nobody's on there at all. And we'll keep you guys updated throughout the off season. We'll keep going with some new segments, some guests coming up probably in the next couple months. We'll keep you covered until the draft. Like I said, we got the combine this week. But thanks everybody for listening, and we really appreciate you if you're an off-season listener because we know you're dedicated. No peasants are listening to Bills podcasts at this time of the season, so we appreciate all you guys. All right, we'll be back next week, and until then, go Bills.
Go Bills.